Hi guys, we'll start in 35 seconds or so. Just want to make sure that Facebook is still there and that I'm still there, although I'm not all there. Anyway, hang on. We'll start shortly. Good evening for those of you who are in this Eastern Daylight Time Zone, northeast of the United States. Otherwise, morning, good afternoon, whatever. Bon nuit. Um, this is the Tibet Center, Kunchab Tardu Ling, a Buddhist meditation and study center located in New York City and northern New Jersey, under the direction of Chabje, His Eminence Chabje Ling Rinpoche, and also under the direction of Rato Kensur Nicholas Vreeland, or Tupten Lundab, Geshe Tupten Lundab. This is our twice weekly presentation of the Buddha Dharma. Specifically, we do the LAM Rim. And tonight's lecture, from now on I'll tag these things, it's chapter 12 of LAM Rim, volume 3. Now, these presentations go, they're sort of bifurcated, or no, they're cut in half. Hey, um, the first part, since I don't know who the audience is basically general Buddhism, designed for people who might be curious to function as an outreach. The second part is more or less heavy Buddhism, especially the third volume, the Lamrim, which discusses insight, the doctrine of emptiness. It really needs some background and understanding, which we're going to talk about tonight. So that's the way these presentations go. Problems with the sound, problems with the picture, let me know right away. Please don't call, because when you call, the cell phone is linked to this and it blanks out the screen for me. And I think I lost the transmission, but I don't. Text, fine, no problem. All the prayers we say are on the Tibet Center website. Scroll down to the FAQ section. You'll find in the FAQ section, you'll find prayers. Scroll down to prayers. If there's anyone who's recently deceased and you want to pray for them, place their names in the chat box. I don't see the whole thing, so if I don't announce their name, it's just because there's like 4 or 5 names, that's all. Anyway, we have a lot to do, of course, so we'll get started. As we usually do, prayer for the spread of the teachings throughout the length and breadth of the West. By the force of the blessings of the non-fallacious 3 precious gems, and of the truth of our pure selfless wishes, may the precious Buddhist teachings flourish and spread to the expanse of all areas throughout the length and breadth of the West. For all the people living here, together with their near ones who have engaged in the teachings and have faith and respect for them, may all conditions adverse to the practice of the pure Dharma be dispelled, and an excellent collection of favorable conditions increase like the waxing moon. And especially for those who work on methods to accomplish the flourishing and spreading of the victorious one's teachings, which are the source of benefit and happiness, may they never be oppressed by masses of interference and adverse conditions, and may this spontaneously happen just as we have hoped and wished. The Heart Sutra. Thus have I heard once. The Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of the Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a big gathering of great monks and great bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One entered the samadhi which examines the dharmas, called profound illumination, and at the same time noble Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, mahasattva, looking at the profound practice of transcendent knowledge, saw the 5 skandhas and their natural emptiness. Then, through the inspiration of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Avalokiteshvara, how should those noble ones learn who wish to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge? And Avalokiteshvara answered, Venerable Shariputra, whoever wishes to follow the profound practice of transcendent knowledge should look at it like this, seeing the 5 skandhas and their natural emptiness. Form is empty. Emptiness itself is form. Emptiness is not separate from form. Form is not separate from emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discriminating awareness, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Thus all the dharmas are empty and have no characteristics. They are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, since there is emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discriminating awareness, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no objects of mind, no quality of sight, no quality of hearing, no quality of smelling, no quality of tasting, no quality of sensing, no quality of thought, no quality of mind consciousness. There are no nidanas from ignorance to old age and death, nor their wearing out. There is no suffering, no cause of suffering, no ending of suffering, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, no non-attainment. You know, of course, this is a qualified no. It means no inherent. Therefore, since there is no attainment, the bodhisattvas abide by means of transcendent knowledge. And since there's no obscurity of mind, they have no fear. They transcend falsity and pass beyond the bounds of sorrow. All the Buddhas who dwell in the past, present, and future by means of transcendent knowledge, fully and clearly awaken to unsurpassed, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of transcendent knowledge, the mantra of deep insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for there is no deception. In transcendent knowledge, the mantra is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisoha. O Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, mahasattva, should learn profound transcendent knowledge. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and praised the bodhisattva, mahasattva Avalokiteshvara, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, profound, transcendent knowledge should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said to Shariputra and the Avalokiteshvara, that whole gathering in the world with its gods, humans, Asuras, and Gandharvas, their hearts full of joy, praise the words of the Blessed One. And now refuge and bodhisattva vow, which we recite 3 times. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With the wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. May all the pains of living creatures ripen solely upon myself, and through the might of the Bodhisattva Sangha, may all beings experience happiness. May the teachings, which are the sole medicine for suffering and the origin of every joy, be materially supported and honored and abide for a very long time. I prostrate to Manjagosha, through whose kindness wholesome minds ensue, and I prostrate to my spiritual masters, through whose kindness I develop. And now is the cause for his quick return, the quick return that is of Rato Chunla Rinpoche, our teacher and founder of the Tibet Center. His Holiness Dalai Lama has composed a prayer called A Prayer for a Swift Return, on the website, of course. Exalted wisdom of all victors gathered in a drop, sole refuge manifest, in the form of the one wearing saffron robes, Guru Lazang Tubang Doje Chang, please bear witness here today that our prayers may be fulfilled. We beseech the great torch of doctrine, accomplishing from long ago the vast waves of aspirational prayers, Lord of speech of the Victor Lozang's teachings, spreading them to the ends of the earth by means of explanation and practice. Though holding the commitment, I will invite all beings to be my guests, an unsurpassed, great awakening. Yet, you have withdrawn the activities of the form body that serves the welfare of others. Is that worthy of the supreme among beings, the bodhisattvas? Though impossible for you till cyclic existence's end to abandon your commitment to liberate all beings, we beseech the new son of Nirmanakaya to swiftly return from the realm of Dharmakaya, brought forth by bodhicitta drawn by 7 steeds. Having reached the far limits of scholarship, religious life, and goodness, please come swiftly as an unrivaled supreme emanation, full holder of the sage's teachings, and wish-fulfilling jewel, return as the glory of Lozang Tenpei. Magnificent truth of the 3 precious jewels, Mahakala, Karmayama, and Sri Mata Devi, and the ocean of Dharma protectors, may you spontaneously fulfill our wish, the swift blossoming of the reincarnation's fresh moonlight face. Oh, we will introduce a new star to our lineup of commentators. Let me just see who's... Okay, we're getting out, so people are here. Thank you, everyone. Jolly, good morning, good afternoon. Bulla Bulla Aradna, of course. Good. Okay. This another by already blew my March book budget, but I couldn't resist. This is called The Swift Path. Remember the Easy Path? This is by the next Panchen Lama, his reincarnation, who wrote The Swift Path as an addendum to that original text with different emphasis here and there. The thing that really impressed me, it's very well translated by Seje To, Szegeetoh. I don't know, I hope I'm not mispronouncing her name. Obvious person who practices it. Obviously, it's a very nice way of presenting the teachings. I'm basing that on her synopsis and her introduction to this book, The Swift Path. Who's it published by? Wisdom, of course. Forward by Lama Zopa. So she's in, I guess, in the FPMT institution or whatever they call them, conglomerate. I don't know. Wonderful. Foundation for the Preservation of Mahayana Teachings. Tireless work of Lama Zopa. And some of the things here are very, very interesting. I think you'll find them very helpful. Next Wednesday, I'll do what I thought was her real genius. She took the object of negation and put it into everyday life. Because when we read on the object negation, it's not too much, not too little. Here it is in action. So, but first, let's hear what she has to say about a few different topics. I'm on page 2 of The Swift Path. And the heading of the section is called, What's the Point of the Lam Rim? Oh yeah, what is the point? We've been doing this several years now. Hey, it's based, since the Lam, this is her words now, since the Lam Rim is basically an arrangement of Buddha's teachings, would it not make better sense to just study and practice the Buddha's teachings themselves, which are already available in the form of sutras and the great Indian treatises that are commentaries on them? Yes. As spiritual aspirants, we encounter scores of practices: ethics, loving kindness, compassion, contemplation of suffering, generosity, realization of emptiness, meditative concentration, and so on. That's a lot. How are we supposed to approach them all? For example, perhaps one day I feel inspired to radiate loving kindness to all living beings as taught in the Metta Sutta, or Metta Sutta. That's a Pali. They use the pronunciation Sutta. You got it. Or if I am feeling agitated, well, that doesn't happen, I decide to watch my inhalations and exhalations and count my breath. And yet, on another occasion, I feel like meditating on the emptiness expounded in the Heart Sutra. This contemplation of suffering in the Four Noble Truths probably gets shelved in my mind, as my mind is far more inclined to dwell on pleasing thoughts and reflection on sickness and death rather than reflections on sickness and death. That's all of us. You know, we think it's a big supermarket of the sutra here, this teacher there. She's making a very good point here. Two questions arise. Will I make reasonable progress on the spiritual path by cherry-picking several practices that appeal while leaving the rest aside? Or if I am interested in many practices, can I engage in these practices in any random order? For very, very beginning people, I remember Rinpoche saying, we'll just take something you like and concentrate on that, this topic or that. For someone who's really, really new, yes, oh, this really appeals to me, like you're passing a buffet. Why? Because all these teachings, if you get into them, automatically connect everything else. But it's a lot easier to follow the Lam Rim's presentation. Here's why. As in the case of a sophisticated dish that calls for a variety of ingredients to be combined in a specific manner, the Lam Rim proposes an orderly cultivation of our minds so that we can achieve not just a temporary sense of well-being, but an everlasting state of perfect enlightenment that is the culmination of our potential. Thus, according to this schema, neither implementing a single isolated practice nor combining many practices haphazardly will bring maximal benefit. Maximal benefit. Someone's curious, read. But then if you're going to take it to the next step and you're realizing this is something that can change my mind, how do I do it? making very strong points here, in my opinion. Maybe you don't agree, that's your business. Sequence does make a difference in spiritual development. Certain practices are more complex and require a particular foundation before they can be actualized most effectively. For example, we may be inspired by the idea of generating universal love and cannot wait to encompass all living beings with our compassion. But if we neglect cultivating genuine love and compassion for ourselves first, then whatever love and compassion we generate for all living beings will be flimsy, and our enthusiasm may turn into compassion fatigue before long. For this reason, the meditation on altruism is preceded by the contemplation of the dissatisfactory nature of our present existence, in which we develop the fervent wish to be completely free from our own sufferings of samsara, coarse and subtle. See how it makes sense? It is an acute awareness of our own state that propels us to do everything we can to free ourselves from suffering. Acute awareness that we are not at the best level we could be. Without this foundation, we might even become jealous of those who possess beauty, wealth, and renown. Oh, that won't happen. No. Compassion for them would be the last thing on our minds. See the type of mind you must develop to make these practices really work? Very strong points. I can't praise her enough. In general, we can certainly embark on whatever practice we feel drawn to, but we may not derive the benefit that we would gain if we were to instead train our mind methodically with an appreciation of the big picture. Using a framework like the LAM can help us avoid the pitfall of not seeing the forest for the trees in our practice. For instance, we may contemplate suffering, the first of the Four Noble Truths, as a standalone practice, but without being preceded by the reflection on our precious human rebirth, and without being succeeded by the reflection of the possibility of the total cessation of suffering and the existence of the path leading to liberation, we risk feeling pessimistic and falling into hopelessness. This is a common problem. When you don't see the things in their proper context and don't develop the mind. So she continues, the topics of the LAM are masterfully curated, like that, masterfully curated, so that we are guided to a holistic transformation without falling into mental and emotional imbalance. So she, obviously is a practitioner, obviously knows the psychology of the mind. I'm skipping now. Some of the benefits of Lama, we know that if all the teachings of the Buddha are free of contradiction, that's just, we will now go. Don't just study practice on page 8 is the heading of this particular section. Don't just study, practice. And here's a little colloquial Tibetan thing, which I'll say it, but she explains it, so don't get confused. A butter cover cannot be softened by butter. Well, I didn't know that. The mind that has gone astray in relation to the Dharma cannot be tamed by the Dharma. This Tibetan proverb underscores the importance of practice, the bedrock of the path. And now she explains, in olden Tibet, the leather used to wrap yak butter stiffened over time, and such leather was resistant to the normally softening effects of butter. So it's like like ceramic almost, Likewise, someone who knows the Dharma but does not practice it runs the risk of becoming impervious to its benefits, hardened. Thus, at the conclusion of the section of the path in common with persons of small capacity, the author cautions against being satisfied with a mere intellectual understanding. Understanding, appreciating, and desiring a particular good quality does not mean that we have already generated it, or it will generate effortlessly. No. Oh, I like that. Just because we like it doesn't mean we already have the quality. He's saying, she's saying. Oh. Similarly, intellectually knowing that something is bad for us doesn't mean we abstain from it. Ask any alcoholic, as any alcoholic or smoker will attest. That's a good juxtaposition, I think. You know it's bad, but you do it. What's behind this? Habit pattern. How do you get away from that constant meditation in the opposite for all your habits? We know that not constant, but regular. We know that anger is bad for us, and patience and compassion are salutary. But when driving and someone cuts into our lane abruptly, we will flare up in rage. Yes, we still flare up in rage, she said. Transformative techniques are required if we are to weaken such negative tendencies and foster patience, compassion, and other virtues. The methods taught in the LAM do exactly that. They can help our mind become so even keeled that nothing upsets it. Not instantly, of course. Training our mind, accustomed as it is to affliction and self sabotaging behaviors, requires sustained effort. Simply praying to a higher power and requesting wisdom does not suffice. We've all done that. We do it still. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to supplement that. Nobody gets the benefits of a workout by watching it on YouTube. Likewise, the benefits from the techniques explained here are not gained by only reading about and understanding them. We must immerse ourselves in the instructions and experience profound realizations through their practice. We need both our analytical and contemplative powers to progressively weed out unskillful thought patterns, the cause of suffering. Unskillful thought patterns are the cause of suffering, she's saying. And we need meditation as well to replace these with constructive habits, the cause of happiness. So we control this by controlling the mind. If you're new to Buddhism, that's Buddhism's main point. The mind is everything. Control it, you control your destiny. Treading the path, she continues on page 9, treading the path takes humility and self-awareness. What may appear to be assiduous spiritual practice can sometimes, instead of diminishing and eliminating afflictions, leave the afflictions untouched or even fortified. The technique's important. How is this possible? Contemporary teachers have coined terms as spiritual materialism and spiritual bypass. I never heard that one. That's a good one. Spiritual bypass. To caution against spiritual self-deception. People may have the trappings of a spiritual practitioner, wearing prayer beads, chanting mantras, quoting scripture, and spinning a prayer wheels. Ooh. I won't comment. But if they fail to acknowledge their mental flaws and sincerely work on their own mind, they are not true spiritual practitioners. Dharma practice is not for show. Even the best medicine becomes poison if misused. Yes, you're only hurting yourself. I mean, this Lamrim she's saying is written by Panchen Losang Yeshe. Panchen means pandita, learned person, etc. We can go there. What else? Page 14, I'll just cherry picking a little so we don't go over the time allotted. He's talking about in general how Atisha arranged these practices, and all the Lamrims follow the model of Atisha. Atisha follows the Prajnaparamita Sutras. It's where the original Lamrim is in the Prajnaparamita Sutras and in Maitreya's texts, and then Atisha took them up, and then Tsong-kha-pa also called his Lamrim a commentary on Lamp for the Path, the Atisha book. In case you're wondering. So, and there's different paths of small capacity people who their goal is just a good rebirth. Medium capacity people, they want to get out of samsara, this constant being reborn high, then low, or always reborn high, but you're not out of samsara. No good. Or people with great capacity, not only they want to get out of samsara, they want to become omniscient Buddhists to most effectively remove everyone else's suffering. Their motivation is high altruism, great love, great compassion, impartial. So each of these three divisions, she continues on page 14, contains a number of meditation topics, and the three scopes themselves are preceded by several meditation topics that lay the foundation for traversing the paths. These paths are graduated in the sense that a higher path requires the lower path as foundation. Makes sense. If you lack the wish to attain liberation from samsara for yourself, it's impossible that you will wish the same for all living beings, let alone strive to attain Buddhahood in order to help them to attain liberation. Start with yourself. Similarly, she continues, without aspiring to be free from the suffering in the lower realms, it's impossible that you will aspire to be free from the entirety of samsara with all its allures. You don't even want to get out of the horrible places. How are you going to convince yourself to get out of samsara, which sometimes, is very seductive and yes, and this and that? Yeah. Hence, the Lamrim is like a map to three destinations, such that one has to pass through the first in order to arrive at the second, and through the second in order to arrive at the third. And so, for someone aiming for the furthest destination, the first two are transit points rather than final goals. Someone seeking the Mahayana ideal of full enlightenment, or Buddhahood, must first pass through the paths in common with those persons with small or medium capacity, rather than the actual paths of persons with small or medium capacity. From this point of view, the goals of high rebirth and liberation from suffering may be understood as stepping stones to the ultimate destination of Buddhahood. I think we got that point down. We've heard that a lot, but that's important to realize that. You keep your eye on the ultimate goal. It gives you a broadness to your practice, and it gives you a lot of confidence, especially when they introduce the topic of Buddha nature, that we all have the seeds of it in us. We don't have to go out and get something we don't have. We just have to uncover it. That should give us great confidence, and it means that since all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are doing nothing but awakening that Buddha nature in us and doing the best they can to bring us to full enlightenment, that's our destiny. And it's the destiny of every being that has consciousness, that has Buddha nature. Who has consciousness has Buddha nature, according to the Sangha school. She's saying that, here's another little point about the preliminary practices, making offerings, sitting there when you start a meditation session. They tell you clean your room, all these things. These are important. We're not going to go into the detail now, and Lamrim revolves again if I'm around, or whoever's around, you'll pick up that practice, so you can read it. She's saying these preliminary practices, bearing devotional and ritualistic flavors, will not feel like a chore if we understand the purpose for doing them. That's a big motivation for practice. Understand why you're doing it by looking into it and convincing it. Then it's not a chore. It's not, oh, I got to do this. Okay, I'm doing the water offering. Oh, I got to clean the room. They prepare the mind so that we'll have the conditions most conducive to gaining insight into the topic during the actual meditation. You're also gaining merit by doing that. I'm cleaning my room and doing this to make my mind more supple to understand these practices so I can remove other suffering for once and for all. Bring them to the highest bliss. And myself too, by the way. Don't forget number one. No, number one is everyone else. So live that way, you live happier. So she's saying, path in common with persons with small capacity, chapter 19. Well, no, here. Do you feel, page 19, the precious human birth, a little bit on that. And I'm constantly, nervously watching the clock. Do you feel that there is something special about your human existence? Especially when you're jammed into the rush hour subway or something. Do you feel special? Huh? Reflecting on our human rebirth and fortunate circumstances helps us to develop self-confidence based neither on others' affirmations nor on superficial attributes such as physical attractiveness and wealth. We have to understand the value of this body situation that we have, body-mind complex in the human realm, and having met the Dharma, that's another big deal. Most people haven't. Don't even know that there's a way out of this. So that should be our underlying thought when we talk about the benefits of human birth. Healthy self-esteem is necessary. Healthy self-esteem is necessary for us to embark on the path, to persevere in the face of difficulties and achieve the highest enlightenment. Healthy self-esteem built on logic. A man or woman unaware of that the dusty painting hanging in his kitchen is a rare Renaissance masterpiece worth millions cannot benefit from its great value. You don't know what it's worth? No. Similarly, even though we have this magnificent gift, our precious human rebirth, if, by the way, which we worked hard to get, if we are not aware of its value and fail to appreciate it, our good fortune will be squandered. You got to realize the value of what we have. Forget monetary value. The value of what we have goes beyond this life if we use it right. Here we reflect on the 8 ways in which we are free from the unfavorable conditions and the 10 ways in which we enjoy favorable conditions for developing our potential. Realizing the boundless opportunities afforded by our human rebirth, both rare and meaningful, fills us with gratitude, positivity, and enthusiasm, if you do it right. What do we do after we realize that we have a wonderful, precious human rebirth? Go to the movies? No. Have pizza? Yeah, but no. The following set of meditations is done out of concern for our well-being in future lives. We aim to avoid a bad rebirth and to be reborn in the human or God realm. By setting our sights on our happiness beyond this life, our mind becomes more spacious and our obsession with the affairs of this life diminishes. Very good point to contemplate. By setting our sights on our happiness beyond this life, our mind becomes more spacious and our obsession with the affairs of this life diminishes. The positive side effects. Whoopee! So, why are these future lives more important? Because they're longer than this one, that's for sure. That's just a basic starting point. Thus, we become more relaxed and develop a sense of calm whether things go well or badly. In other words, we understand that there is no need to sweat the small stuff and realize the futility of undue worry about mundane concerns. Good training. Even if you're not a religious person, you should think that way. We will see that the pointlessness of agonizing over trivial matters that will be of no importance in the long term. This series of contemplations releases us from preoccupation with the short-term distractions so that we may refocus our attention on more worthy concerns. Very positive, very healthy, long-run healthy. A little bit more? No, we don't have, well, tiny bit more. Just a little bit more. Talking about, will I be alive tomorrow? Certainty of death. This question can make us feel uneasy. For we all know intellectually that death can strike at any time, but that does not stop us from assuming we will still be around tomorrow, next week, or next year. Science has made great strides in reducing the causes of death and prolonging life. But the stark reality is, no matter how much biohacking we attempt, we cannot escape death. And when we do die, will we depart with regrets? In this chapter, we reflect on the certainty of death. She's going through some of the chapters. In this topic is the certainty of death, the uncertainty of the time of death, and the fact that when death comes, only spiritual practice helps. Your possessions, your friends, etc., and so forth don't help. Through contemplating these points, we cultivate a mindfulness that our existence in this life is limited, and we strive to overcome procrastination and reset our priorities. The mindfulness of death, rather than something unpleasant and frightening, then becomes liberating and even joyous as we let go of petty concerns and find the mental space to consider goals beyond this life. We'll leave it at that for now. I think I don't know, that's the way I take it. Maybe you don't that impressed, but I am. And Yeshe Tenzin Namdak likes her stuff. Kathleen McDonald, Thupten Jimpa. And Yael Bentnor, I met her years ago in '85. She teaches at Hebrew University. She's an emeritus professor at Hebrew University. She was an Israeli studying at Indiana University with the Dalai Lama's older brother. And we met her in the library. They gave us a tour of the library. There she was at night with a significant other hacking away and getting work done. She's translator, etc. So anyway, thank you, Yael, for your... When I saw her name on the thing, I said, I got to buy the book. That's it. Anyway, all right, back to work. We left off, this is chapter 12 of LAM 3. And of course, It's called rationality, or whatever you want to call it. We'll go to the right page, rational analysis. And we left off. I can't even turn pages anymore. Don't get old. No, get old, but don't get decrepit like me. And they're talking about analyzing things and what tools you use when you analyze something. And we left 156, page 156 of LAM 3. He quoted Chandra Kirti, who's commenting on Arya Davis 400, saying that when you're analyzing to see the final mode of being of something, that's ultimate analysis. That's not the same analysis you use on conventional phenomena, where you're not questioning, what's their ultimate mode of being? No, what's their nature? Is this, one of them used an example of a horse, the good horse or not? Is this is the right thing to do right now? Is this is a good piece of equipment or not? Rational things used for everyday, rational techniques used for everyday reality, not questioning its mode of being. Ultimate analysis doesn't refute the conventional appearance of these things. It's not its business. Ultimate analysis wants to go underneath these things and see what's their ultimate mode of being. Why do they do that? Because knowing their ultimate mode of being frees us from samsara, frees us from suffering, frees us from the tyranny of the afflictions. You want to make a big political, so the tyranny of the afflictions. That's why we look underneath these things. But that analysis is not to be applied to say, well, no inherent existence doesn't exist. Sorry, there's nothing there. There's really nothing there. False use of logic. That's all these next minutes are going to cover, that kind of thing. This is 156, middle of the page, Tsong-kha-pa. So this is seeking to discover whether forms and so forth have an intrinsic nature that is produced, ceases, and so forth. Intrinsic nature, something that stands alone again and again, or inherent. Those are synonyms, inherent and intrinsic. Thus, the analysis searches to see whether forms and so forth have production and cessation that exist essentially. Couldn't anyway, but we'll leave that alone. It is not that this line of reasoning searches for mere production and cessation, not saying, well, how did the plant come? Oh, it came from a seed. Okay, and now it flowers and it seeds itself. And then that's normal, that's fine. We're not talking about the mode of being of the sprout or anything. Well, how did this car come to be made? Fine. What's its conventional nature? It's very good, it's a piece of crap, whatever. So this line of reasoning isn't in that ballpark at all. It's not its sphere of authority, as Rinpoche used to say. Therefore, this line of reasoning is said to analyze reality, not our projected reality, but real reality. Because it analyzes whether production, cessation, and so forth are established in reality. In other words, is there inherent production? So, when such a line of realizing when such a line of reasoning analyzes or searches for production and so forth, it does not find the trace of them. They are unable to withstand analysis. That's the conclusion you make. However, the fact that this line of reasoning does not find them does not entail that it refutes them. We're not saying that there's nothing there. It's easy to fall into this trap, because first of all, you have to examine something, right? What's the ultimate mode of being of this table or something? They always use table, I don't know. This microphone, another thing they always this roulette table, yeah. It doesn't refute that it doesn't exist, saying its inherent existence isn't there. Why did we bother with inherent existence? Because that's what we automatically default to. We think that things stand alone by themselves. Oh, so you have to have something to start the analysis with. So how can you conclude, well, it doesn't exist? Well, you started the analysis on something you obviously saw. If it exists conventionally, that's the meaning of existence. To exist is to exist conventionally. Yeshe Sopa says that often. I'll leave it at that. Rather, what is reasoning doing? Reason refutes something that, if it did exist, would have to be established by reason, but which reason does not establish. It doesn't establish an inherent nature of these things. It doesn't say these things are not there. You might say, well, this will be talked about later, but, oh, what about when someone meditates on emptiness, there's a clear void? That doesn't mean that doesn't refute that object we're meditating on doesn't exist at all. It refutes that it doesn't inherently exist. When they come out of this mode of looking for inherent existence, they come out of that equipoise, things again appear. And they appear with a lot less force than they did before, almost dreamlike. So you're on your way to understanding the nature of things. But that not seeing them during the equipoise, looking for inherent existence, the vacuity, the clear vacuity, doesn't mean that the thing it didn't exist conventionally. So, and then this argument will be covered shortly. So by Geshe Sopa and others. Therefore, while reason does not find forms and such, how could it refute them? For example, a visual consciousness does not find sounds, right? You don't see sounds with your eyes, but this does not refute them. This is similar. Sphere of authority of the visual consciousness is forms. Doesn't find sounds. It's not a sphere of authority. It's not looking for sounds. Looking, oh, there's a nice painting. That's it. Something like that. You should think that way because that's how we start to order our thinking. Where do we go from the physical sense to the mental? Therefore, on page 157, top 157, line rim 3 at top of the page, therefore, if production, cessation, being in, coming in, going out, and so forth, existed essentially means inherently, intrinsically, if these things were established in, quote, reality, then reason would have to find them because it accurately analyzes whether forms and such have essentially exist in production and cessation. Not mere production and cessation. We all know that parts come together to make a car. No, inherently, essentially existent production and cessation. Since such analysis does not find production and so forth, it refutes production, cessation, and so forth that exist essentially, that is, in reality. It's hard to understand because the words trip. When you hear the word, you trip into a certain understanding of it automatically. You have to tame our minds here. For if they existed essentially, that analysis would have to find them, but it does not. The analysis doesn't see it. We're not looking for the object itself, we're looking for the inherent existence of the object. We're not looking for emptiness, we're looking for inherent existence. The not finding of it is emptiness. For if they existed essentially, that analysis would have to find them, but it does not. For example, when a searcher who is certain to find a pot in the east, if it is there, searches in the east for a pot and does not find it, this refutes the existence of a pot only in the east. Doesn't mean that pots don't exist. There's a limited scope, right? Again, at the top of page 157, yet how could it refute the mere existence of a pot? Similarly, Madhyamaka analysis is certain to find essentially existent production if such exists. When it does not find production, this constitutes a refutation of intrinsically or essentially existent production. How could it refute mere production? In this vein, Chandrakirti's commentary on the 400 stanzas is clear. And Chandrakirti says, everyone listens, therefore, when reason analyzes, God, I'll be all right. When reason analyzes in this way, there is no essential nature that exists in the sensory faculties, objects, or consciousness. Hence, they have no essential existence inherent. If they essentially existed, then under analysis by reason, their status as essentially existent would be seen even more clearly, but it's not. It's not seen at all. Therefore, they are established as empty of intrinsic nature. Let's see what time we have. Empty of intrinsic nature. Chandrakirti repeatedly allows that these conventionalities, such as forms and sounds, do exist. However, they are not in the least established by reasoning that establishes reality. That is, analyzing whether or not they have intrinsic nature. They don't have it. Thus, the scrutiny of reason is not applied to them. Also, Chandrakirti often says that it is those who are incompetent at positing conventionalities who claim that conventional things are destroyed when, upon rational analysis, reason does not find them. It's a problem for them. They don't know how to posit mere appearances of things doing this and that and functioning. The inherently existent bucket still carries water. That's one of Jeffrey's examples. We'll leave it at that because we want to go to Geshe Sopa's commentary before we get too carried away and not forget the gist of the argument. The gist of the argument. Le mot gist, no. What is it? Yeah. Pardon me, these books are getting... Okay, we left Geshe Sopa. He was at the bar. No, he wasn't. Last week. Tsong-kha-pa, this is page 135, emphasizes that ultimate analysis is not concerned with conventional reality. We said this last week. I'm just leading in from the sentence preceding to where we stop. Conventional things are neither sought nor found by ultimate analysis because this is a matter for conventional analysis only. That's conventional analysis business, not its ultimate nature, no. Since the Madhyamikas do not accept that conventional things are found by ultimate analysis, we never said that, they do not incur the fault of implying that things are truly or inherently existent. In this case, this can be confusing. Geshe Sopa, page 135. The basis of investigation of ultimate analysis is usually a conventional thing. Yeah, what are you going to talk about? All right, let's look at this thing. However, ultimate analysis does not look to find that conventional thing itself because this is a matter for conventional analysis. And we just leave that as appearance is that, let's look at it. What's behind this appearance? Ultimate analysis looks to find the referent of a conventional label. Why do we call it a horse or whatever? Such an entity can only be found by ultimate analysis if it inherently exists or exists from its own side. Thus, to be found by conventional analysis and to be found by ultimate analysis are completely different. It is easy to misunderstand this point. Suppose someone asks, if something is not able to withstand analysis, then how can that thing negated by reasoning exist? Wait a minute. We just went over this. Tsong-kha-pa. Here's his answer. The questioner thinks that because a horse is not found by ultimate analysis, it is totally non-existent. Okay? You're getting the same point now, differently stated. His mistake is to think that being unable to withstand ultimate analysis is the same as being negated by ultimate analysis. But they are not the same. Many people, including some earlier Tibetan Madhyamaka scholars, I knew them well, I was around it now, confuse being unable to withstand ultimate analysis with being refuted by an ultimate analysis. See? Unable to withstand analysis, and then it says doesn't totally refute them, it refutes their inherent nature. See? Those earlier scholars claim that it is nonsense to say that production and so on exist when they are refuted by ultimate analysis. Therefore, they do not accept them to exist, not exist, and so forth. They go through that rigmarole. According to Tsong-kha-pa, the meaning of a thing being able to withstand ultimate analysis concerns whether it is found by ultimate analysis. Chandrakirti's commentary on the 400 stanzas says, because our analysis focuses only on the search for an inherent nature. So there's that specific ultimate analysis doing a certain surgical thing and not the general analysis that we use when we want to buy something or suss out a situation. And the term that appears here is nature, a loaded word. However, when discussing the ultimate analysis that searches for a thing's nature, it is best to clarify this by using the term inherent nature or intrinsic nature, because there are natures that, ultimate analysis, the nature of water is to be wet, something like that. He's going to give his own explanation. Ultimate analysis is used to investigate whether a conventional thing has its own inherent nature. Investigating a thing's nature is different from investigating a thing's inherent nature. What does this mean? First, let's consider the notion of a thing's, quote, nature. Do form and each of the other five aggregates have a nature? Yes, they do. What is it? They have the nature of arising, abiding, aging, ceasing, and changing every moment. How's that? what are we are born, change, and in the end we die. That's our nature. We exist independent on causes and conditions. Independence on causes and conditions. It is correct to say this is our nature. No one can say that a thing's mere nature, conventional nature, does not exist. In this case, nature refers to conventional nature, which encompasses impermanence, suffering, and so on. However, in the context of ultimate analysis, nature usually refers to inherent nature. So when you're using the term in the context of looking for ultimate analysis, it means inherent nature. So don't transpose the meanings. They got to stay in their little lane. Stay in your lane with these meanings. It is inherent nature that is sought by ultimate analysis. That's what it's looking at. Where's the inherent nature? Ultimate analysis does not search for the general conventional nature of something. Again, it's not its business. Leave it alone. Such as arising and ceasing. It investigates whether the arising of forms and so on exists from its own side, or essentially, or intrinsically, or inherently. Same thing. The result of this analysis is that when we do not find even a single instance of inherently existent rising or ceasing, that's it. We don't find it. That's the result of this. This non-finding means that the object analyzed is unable to withstand such analysis, but it does not mean that it is refuted by that analysis. Can't be. I mean, you're refuting the very thing you started your meditation with. I was not there. If it wasn't there, then why are you bothering? There's a contradiction there. You get too bogged down in ideas, etc. I mean, if I didn't have commentaries, we all didn't have it, we would all fall to that extreme. So we're fortunate the people who came before us really set up a nice means of understanding. One more paragraph, page 156, the bottom, last paragraph. Thus, although we do not find a basis of identity existing within the object when we search for it using ultimate analysis, this does not mean that the object itself is totally negated by such analysis. You might think that if something exists, then it must be proved by analysis, and if it's not proved, then it is negated. But we must discern what type of analysis we are talking about, conventional or ultimate. We can establish the existence of the production and cessation of forms and so on by conventional valid knowledge. Yes, you know what comes from where. Conventional things exist because they are established by conventional valid knowledge. Every day walking around, this is this, that's that. The very term exist means established by valid knowledge. If there is valid knowledge of a thing, then it exists. If it's not established by valid knowledge, then it does not exist. There is a mutual entailment here. Since the production of forms, feelings, and so on are conventionally established, they exist. Yet even though they exist, they are not established by ultimate valid knowledge. Two types of knowledge, valid and conventional and ultimate valid knowledge. So how could it be reasonable to say that things not found by ultimate analysis are negated altogether? It can't be. So that he's giving you that argument. So we'll stop there, and we will continue this argument on the presentation of the argument. We're not arguing. On our next Dharma class, Wednesday night, the 15th. For whom will we pray, if we can find their names? Mary Florence, how are you, Mary? Takanis. I don't see any names. Maybe I'm missing some. Mark's going to bed. Good night, Mark. Okay, I don't see any names of people to pray, but you have, with all the stuff going on in the world, we have plenty to pray for. What happened to my screen? My screen is dead again. Oh my God. Anyway, Sutra of the Recollection of Noble Three Jewels. I prostrate to the Omniscient One. Thus the Buddha, Bhagavad, Tathagata, Arhat, Samyak Sang Buddha, the learned and virtuous one, the Sugata, the knower of the world, the charioteer and tamer of beings, the unsurpassable one, the teacher of devas and humans, is the Buddha Bhagavat. The Tathagata is in accord with all merit. He does not waste the roots of virtue. He is completely ornamented with all patience. He is the basis of the treasures of merit. He is adorned with the minor marks. He blossoms with the flowers of the major marks. His activity is timely and appropriate. Seeing him, he is without disharmony. He brings true joy to those who long with faith. His knowledge cannot be overpowered. His strengths cannot be challenged. He is the teacher of all sentient beings. He is the father of bodhisattvas. He is the king of noble ones. He is the guide of those who journey to the city of nirvana. He he possesses immeasurable wisdom. He possesses inconceivable confidence. His speech is completely pure. His melody is pleasing. One never has enough of seeing him. His form is incomparable. He's not stained by the realm of desire. He's not stained by the realm of form. He is not affected by the formless realm. He is completely liberated from suffering. He is completely and utterly liberated from the skandhas. He is not possessed with dhatus. His ayatanas are controlled. He has completely cut the knots. He is completely liberated from extreme torment. He is liberated from craving. He has crossed over the river. He is perfected in all the wisdoms. He abides in the wisdom of the Buddha Bhagavats who arise in the past, present, and future. He does not abide in nirvana. He abides in the ultimate perfection. He dwells on the bhumi where he sees all sentient beings. All these are the perfect virtues of the greatness of the Buddha Bhagavat. The Holy Dharma is good at the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Its meaning is excellent. Its words are excellent. It is uncorrupted. It is completely perfect and completely pure. It completely purifies. The Bhagavat teaches the Dharma well. It brings complete vision. It is free from sickness. It is always timely. It directs one further. Seeing it fulfills one's purpose. It brings discriminating insight for the wise. The Dharma which is taught by the Bhagavat is revealed properly in the Vinaya. It is renunciation. It causes one to arrive at perfect enlightenment. It is without contradiction, it is pithy, it is trustworthy, and puts an end to the journey. As for the Sangha of the Great Jnana, they enter completely, they enter insightfully, they enter straightforwardly, they enter harmoniously. They are worthy of veneration with joined palms. They are worthy of receiving prostration. They are a field of glorious merit. They are completely capable of receiving all gifts. They are an object of generosity. They are a great object of complete generosity. The protector who possesses great kindness, the omniscient teacher, the basis of oceans of merit and virtue, I prostrate to the Tathagata. Pure, the cause of freedom from passion, virtuous, liberating from the lower realms. This alone is the supreme ultimate truth. I prostrate to the Dharma, which is peace. Having been liberated, they show the path to liberation. They are fully dedicated to the disciplines. They are a holy field of merit and possess virtue. I prostrate to the Sangha. I prostrate to the Buddha, the leader. I prostrate to the Dharma, the protector. I prostrate to the Sangha, the community. I prostrate respectfully and always to these three. The Buddha's virtues are inconceivable. The Dharma's virtues are inconceivable. The Sangha's virtues are inconceivable. Having faith in these inconceivables, therefore the fruitions are inconceivable. May they be born in a completely pure realm. And now, as a cause, further cause for the swift return of Rato Chungla Rinpoche, we recite this prayer recommended by His Holiness called Prayer for the Flourishing of Tsong-kha-pa's Teachings, pardon me. And I will reuse this plastic. Usually I don't buy them, but I use them more than once. It's a little better for the environment. On the website, FAQ section, Prayer for the Flourishing of Tsong-kha-pa's Teachings. Though he's the father, producer of all conquerors, as a conqueror's son, he produced the thought of upholding the conqueror's Dharma in infinite worlds. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. When of yore in the presence of Buddha Indra Ketu, he made his vow, the conqueror and his offspring praised his powerful courage. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. That the lineage of pure view and conduct might spread, he offered a white crystal rosary to the sage, who gave him a conch and prophesied. Through this truth, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. His pure view free of eternity or destruction, his pure meditation cleansed of dark fading and fog, his pure conduct practiced according to the conqueror's orders, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Learn, since he extensively sought out learning, reverent, rightly applying it to himself, good, dedicating all for beings and the doctrine, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Through being sure that all scripture is definitive and interpretive without contradiction, advice for one person's practice, he stopped all misconduct, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Listening to explanations of the three Pitakas, realized teachings, practice of the three trainings, his skilled and accomplished life story is amazing. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Outwardly calmed and subdued by the hearer's conduct, inwardly trusting in the two stages practice, he allied without clash the good paths of Sutra and Tantra. May the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Combining voidness explained as the causal vehicle with great bliss achieved by method, the effect vehicle, heart essence of 80,000 Dharma bundles, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. By the power of the ocean of oath-bound, doctrine protect us, like the main guardians of the three beings' paths, the quick-acting Lord Mahakala, Vaishravana Karmayama, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. In short, by the lasting of glorious gurus' lives, by the earth being full of good, learned, reverend holders of the teaching, and by the increase of power of its patrons, may the conqueror Losang's teachings flourish. Can't wait to get this extra tooth put in so I don't have to stumble over it. 8 verses on training the mind. With the determination to accomplish the highest welfare of all sentient beings who surpass even a wish-granting jewel, I will learn to hold them supremely dear. Whenever I associate with others, I will learn to think of myself as the lowest amongst all, and respectfully hold others to be supreme from the very depths of my heart. In all actions, I will learn to search into my mind, and as soon as a disturbing emotion arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly face and avert it. I will learn to cherish ill-natured beings and those oppressed by strong misdeeds and sufferings, as if I had found a precious treasure difficult to find. When others out of jealousy treat me badly with abuse, slander, and so on, I will learn to take all loss and offer the victory to them. When the one whom I benefited with great hope unreasonably hurts me very badly, I will learn to view that person as an excellent spiritual guide. In short, I will learn to offer to everyone without exception all help and happiness directly and indirectly, and respectfully take upon myself all harm and suffering of my mothers. I will learn to keep all these practices undefiled by the stains of the 8 worldly concerns, and by understanding all phenomena as like illusions, be released from the bondage of attachment. Next class, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock at the parsonage in South Orange. The instructions to you're welcome. Everyone is welcome to go there. The instructions are on the website. Thank you for your patient listening. It's a difficult topic, I understand, but it has to be covered. Big love to all of you. Take care, guys.